So, welcome back to the show. We're still talking about the Zero Waste Month with three champions, heroines of the environment. I'd like to start off with Tiza. So, Tiza, before the break, I asked about how do you guys engage the policymakers, the government, right? Because society, the media, the people cannot walk alone, cannot work alone as well. So, how do you engage policymakers to create such policies that encourages, pressure us to adopt zero waste movement or lifestyle?
Policies are absolutely important. And that's why one of the milestones of Dietplastik Indonesia's movements was to get more than 100 cities across Indonesia to ban single-use plastics.
100 cities.
Jakarta and Bali are one of the two cities among more than 100 cities.
Wow.
So that's the first step. And then after that, we wanted to promote reuse systems and have them embedded into policy, right? Last year, BPOM, which is the Indonesian Food and Drug Agency, issued a regulation allowing reusable containers for cosmetics. And the Ministry of Environment mentions reuse several times in their Ministry of Environment policy on producer responsibility. And tomorrow, we're working together with the Ministry of Environment to launch a reuse roadmap.
Wow, those actually are
It's basically going to lay out what kinds of policies the government needs to adopt over the next several years to really embed reuse solutions into our daily lives.
Okay, so what about in the Philippines, Marian?
Well, for the Philippines, we're a campaigning organization, so we're also doing direct and indirect discussions, our engagement of policymakers. Direct because we do face-to-face dialogues, present policies to these policymakers so that they can prioritize waste reduction, waste prevention, and reuse. And simultaneously, we're also running campaigns to engage their constituents. Getting communities involved, working with different organizations and schools to try to engage these policymakers and leaders to make the shift and make commitments. We're also working with city governments and government agencies at different levels to try to highlight solutions, work on policy frameworks, and also figure out how we can engage more people to support and engage businesses to get involved.
Right. Han, what about your organization in persuading or working together hand in hand with your government policymakers to adopt such lifestyle?
Well, I think the policy decision-making process in every country is different, and every situation has a certain challenge. In our case, it's very important to understand how the system works and knowing that the government also wants the best for everyone, right? The policy at the time, we give the general guidance, regulations. We need the civil society and the local community, business, everyone join together so that direction is beneficial and we can the solutions is possible. So that's what our in engaging the policymakers. We work hand in them well about the progress of all of the zero waste practice, and we'll give the after a while and keep numbers of how it benefit people in terms of job, in terms of reducing the environmental. So it all persuade and I think that the central and local government want to be with us and they also aware that we all on the same boat and it's very important to work together for the long-term vision. Zero waste is a process, right? It's not happening overnight.
All right.
So open dialogue to keep it up, it's very important.
Okay, so maybe this is the last question for the ladies. I'll start with Dietplastik Indonesia. Tiza, tomorrow you will launch the roadmap for zero waste in 2025 with the Ministry of Environment. But how do you envision the future of waste management and sustainability in next decade? I know that the roadmap is actually a baby step towards it.
The vision for waste management is that people will find it easy and affordable to get reusable options and not single-use options. That's the first thing. And that there will be a whole economy built around reuse systems. And I'm talking about having waste banks right now that are collecting waste. Actually, they can diversify their business, and instead of collecting waste, they're collecting containers for washing and reusing. So thereby offering washing services on top of, collection services. I'm talking about how waste pickers, instead of handling dirty and dangerous waste, they can actually be looped into an economy which views containers as never waste, never, until it gets broken. So it gets used 100 times, 150 times in this circular supply chain, and when it breaks, then it's destined for recycling. And waste pickers can play a big role in that economy. These kinds of conversations are already starting. Consumers need options. They just need to see more options. That's it, right? So we have, we've been facilitating, an association of reuse service providers here in Indonesia. We have around 12 members so far that are businesses that actually providing reuse solutions, including for e-commerce. So I actually don't have a problem with single-use plastic for e-commerce because I buy all my groceries in this e-commerce channel platform that gives me the goods, and when they're finished, like oil, ketchup, soy sauce, anything, everything, right? They'll take the packaging, they'll pick it up in their next drop-off, and then they'll wash it, and then they'll reuse it. It's perfect. I do my groceries like this, right? And these kinds of solutions, they need to be supported because that is the future of waste management.
Right.
All right, now let's go to Marian in the Philippines. All right, Marian, how do you envision the future of zero waste management and also the action towards it?
Yeah, the future is definitely promising, but there's still a lot of work to be done for waste management, for zero waste, to really achieve full potential and also result in mainstreaming zero waste models and establishing a reuse-based economy. I think for Greenpeace to achieve zero waste, we really need systems to change. So we're no longer dependent on our linear extract, produce, dispose model. We have system-wide reduction in resource extraction because we have finite resources. We need reduction in production and consumption as well. And of course, we need alternatives. Like when all of this reduction happens, what will fill in that gap, that void? This is where reuse models, alternative systems come in to replace our single-use formats or single-use models. And of course, it's not easy. It won't happen overnight. So that's why it was so exciting to hear about Indonesia's roadmap that they're doing there, that groups are working on, because it'll definitely need action from government and the business sector to redesign the way we're doing things, our systems, and so that communities will also have sort of a way that they can participate and also ensure that there's just transition for affected stakeholders. Because when we're shifting away from these old models and old way of doing things, of course, there will be people that will be impacted and groups that will be impacted. So we need to ensure that we bring them along as we transition to zero waste.
So let's say adjustments. Now let's go for the last one to Vietnam. Hanh, just a quick one before we wrap up this conversation.
Yeah, so actually talking about zero waste, we talk about how the system works, right? But at the end of the day, we need the daily agents. So envision the future. Let's know every family, school, every business establishment, one by one at a time, can become more waste mindful. And we inspire the people come to us and the people next to us to take care of what we buy, or even challenge producers to give us the option of responsibly and more regeneratively. And what if each community, each village, and each town or city can become, capable to manage resource and materials, waste bank, like Tiza mentioned, food bank, and everything, is within the loop and accessible for everyone. Can imagine that, and that's already on the way to happen. So I think, lastly, zero waste is about transforming the relationship. So when we become more mindful about how we live our life, how we interact with other people in our life, and I think the responsibility and the values can be achieved.
All right.
So it's a transformed relationship.
Han, thank you so much. Marian, thank you. And Tiza, thank you so much. Let's start from small stuff that we start from ourselves by reducing the waste that we are using, right? What's the term? Residual waste. That's the correct term.
Baby steps, all right? So, maraming salamat, Marian and also Han, Kaman, and thank you so much, Tiza, for being here in our studio. We hope that the road to zero waste is not gonna be hard in the future because we know we have a lot of difficulties. And see, the stories will continue after the break. Stay with us right here.